The crisp autumn air sent shivers down my spine, and it wasn't just the chill. I, Kyle Rivers, urban explorer extraordinaire, or at least that's what I tell myself, was on a mission to uncover the truth behind the chilling disappearance of a young hiker named Kyle Hayes. Now, I know what you're thinking. Urban exploration usually involves crumbling buildings and forgotten factories, not dense forests and missing persons. But trust me, this was no ordinary case. The story had all the ingredients of a classic Halloween tale. A small town shrouded in mystery, whispers of ancient curses, and an eerie forest where people vanished without a trace. It was the kind of story that made your skin crawl and kept you up at night, the perfect blend of spooky and intriguing. It all started a few weeks ago when I stumbled upon a news article about Kyle Hayes, an avid hiker who had vanished in the Green Mountain National Forest in Vermont. The police had called off the search, labeling it another tragic case of someone getting lost in the vast wilderness. But something about the story tugged at me, a sense of unease that wouldn't let go. So I packed my bags, charged my camera batteries, and hit the road, heading towards the small town of Ashton, Vermont, the last known location of Kyle Hayes. Ashton was nestled deep within the mountains, a picturesque town with a dark secret lurking beneath its charming facade. As I drove through the winding roads, the towering trees seemed to close in, casting long shadows that danced in the twilight. Upon reaching Ashton, I checked into a quaint bed and breakfast, the kind with creaky floorboards and antique furniture that whispered stories of bygone eras. The owner, a kind elderly woman named Mrs. Eleanor, welcomed me with a warm smile and a chilling tale about the forest. The Green Mountains have a mind of their own, she warned, her voice barely above a whisper. Folks say there's a darkness in those woods, something that takes people away, never to be seen again. Her words sent a shiver down my spine, but they also fueled my curiosity. I was determined to uncover the truth, to find out what happened to Kyle Hayes and the others who had vanished in the forest. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an eerie glow over the town, I set out to explore Ashton. The streets were deserted, the only sound the rustling of leaves and the distant hooting of an owl. I could feel the weight of the town's secrets pressing down on me, a palpable sense of dread that hung in the air. I stopped by the local diner, hoping to gather some information from the locals. The diner was empty except for a lone figure hunched over a cup of coffee. I approached him cautiously, introducing myself and mentioning my interest in the Kyle Hayes case. The man, a grizzled old-timer named Edward, looked up at me with weary eyes. "You're poking around in things best left undisturbed," he grumbled, his voice raspy and low. "The forest has a way of keeping its secrets." He went on to tell me about the legend of Trevino's curse, a tale of an ancient entity that roamed the woods, claiming the souls of those who dared to venture too deep. He spoke of a hidden mansion deep within the forest, a place where the veil between the worlds was thin, and the supernatural lurked in the shadows. Edward's words painted a chilling picture, one that both terrified and intrigued me. I knew I was stepping into dangerous territory, but I couldn't turn back now. I had to see this Trevino mansion for myself, to unravel the mystery that had brought me to Ashton. As I left the diner, the moon hung high in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the deserted streets. I could feel the darkness closing in, the forest beckoning me towards its secrets. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the journey ahead. I was about to enter the heart of the unknown, a place where the lines between reality and nightmare blurred, and the truth was as elusive as the shadows themselves. The morning mist clung to the town of Ashton like a shroud, adding to the sense of mystery that already permeated the air. I awoke with a start, the chilling tales from the previous night still lingering in my mind. Today was the day I would delve deeper into the enigma of Kyle Hayes' disappearance and the legend of Trevino's curse. My first stop was the Ashton Historical Society, a small building tucked away on a quiet side street. The Society's collection was a treasure trove of local history, filled with dusty books, faded photographs, and yellowed newspaper clippings. I was particularly interested in any information related to the Trevino mansion and the disappearances associated with it. The curator, a friendly woman named Sarah, was eager to help. She led me to a dimly lit corner of the archive, where a stack of old newspapers awaited my perusal. These date back to the early 1900s, she explained. They might have some mention of the Trevino mansion and the strange occurrences around here. I eagerly sifted through the brittle pages, my eyes scanning for any mention of the mansion or the missing persons. The newspapers were a window into the past, filled with stories of local events, social gatherings, and, most importantly, the dark underbelly of Ashton's history. An article from 1934 caught my attention. It detailed the disappearance of a young woman named Emily Carter, who had vanished while hiking near the Trevino mansion. The article described the mansion as a decaying relic of a bygone era, a place shrouded in local lore and whispered rumors of a curse. Another article, dated 1962, spoke of a group of teenagers who had dared to explore the mansion on Halloween night. They were never seen again. The article mentioned the legend of Mr. Fox, a malevolent entity said to haunt the mansion and claim the souls of those who trespassed on its grounds. As I delved deeper into the archives, a pattern emerged. Disappearances occurred with alarming regularity, always near the Trevino mansion, and always shrouded in mystery. The stories spoke of strange occurrences, eerie sounds, and a sense of dread that permeated the forest surrounding the mansion. One particular article sent chills down my spine. It was a report from 1978 about the disappearance of a renowned historian, Dr. Thomas Ashton, who had been researching the Trevino family and the mansion's history. The article mentioned Dr. Ashton's theory that the mansion was a gateway to another dimension, a place where time and reality were distorted. I couldn't shake the feeling that Dr. Ashton was onto something. His theory seemed to align with the strange occurrences and the recurring theme of time distortion mentioned in the journal I had found. The more I learned, the more convinced I became that the Trevino mansion was not just an abandoned building, but a nexus of supernatural activity, a place where the boundaries between worlds were blurred. Armed with this newfound knowledge, I left the Historical Society, my mind reeling with questions and theories. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows across the town square. I could feel the anticipation building, the pull of the Trevino mansion growing stronger. I knew the time had come to face the darkness that lurked within the forest, to venture into the heart of the unknown and confront the secrets that awaited me. The journey ahead was fraught with danger, but I was determined to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. The old dirt road leading to the Trevino mansion was barely visible, swallowed by the encroaching forest. As I drove deeper into the Green Mountains, the air grew heavy with an oppressive silence, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves and the distant caw of a crow. The sun was already beginning to set, casting long, eerie shadows that danced across the winding path. I parked my car at the edge of the overgrown trail, a sense of foreboding washing over me. The stories I'd heard about the mansion echoed in my mind, tales of disappearances, strange occurrences, and a malevolent entity known as Mr. Fox. But I was no stranger to creepy abandoned places. This was my bread and butter, my chance to capture something truly extraordinary on camera. With my trusty camera in hand and a flashlight strapped to my belt, I ventured into the darkening woods. The path was treacherous, littered with fallen branches and gnarled roots that snaked across the ground like skeletal fingers. The deeper I went, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. The trees seemed to loom closer, their branches intertwining overhead like a suffocating canopy. After what felt like an eternity, the mansion emerged from the gloom, a silhouette against the twilight sky. It was a grand old structure, a relic of a bygone era, now consumed by the relentless embrace of nature. The stone walls were crumbling, the windows boarded up, and the roof partially caved in, revealing glimpses of the decaying interior. A shiver ran down my spine as I approached the mansion. The silence was deafening, broken only by the creaking of the old wooden porch as I stepped onto it. The front door hung ajar, a gaping maw inviting me into the darkness within. Taking a deep breath, I stepped across the threshold. The interior was shrouded in shadows, the air thick with a musty scent of decay. Dust motes danced in the faint moonlight that filtered through the broken windows, illuminating the remnants of a once grand estate. The main hall was dominated by a sweeping staircase, its banister intricately carved with scenes of mythical creatures. Cobwebs draped the walls like macabre tapestries, and the tattered remains of a once luxurious carpet lay scattered across the floor. I explored the mansion room by room, each one a testament to the passage of time and the relentless grip of decay. The library was a chaotic jumble of toppled bookshelves and scattered pages. The dining room a tableau of overturned chairs and a decaying table. Upstairs, the bedrooms were filled with remnants of forgotten lives. A child's doll lying abandoned on a dusty bed, a faded portrait of a stern-faced man hanging crookedly on the wall. As I ventured deeper into the mansion, the atmosphere grew increasingly unsettling. I could hear the floorboards creaking beneath my feet, the wind whistling through the broken windows, and the occasional scuttling sound that sent shivers down my spine. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that something lurked in the shadows, observing my every move. The clock in the grand hall chimed midnight, its sound echoing through the empty mansion like a death knell. A sudden gust of wind slammed a door shut, the sound reverberating through the silence like a gunshot. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. The mansion seemed to come alive, its shadows deepening, its silence growing more profound. I knew then that I wasn't alone. Something was here with me, something ancient and malevolent. The stories I'd heard about the Trevino mansion were true. This was no ordinary abandoned building. It was a place where the veil between worlds was thin, where the supernatural lurked just beyond the realm of the visible. The grandfather clock in the hall struck 12, its deep, resonant chimes echoing through the mansion like a death knell. A cold gust of wind swept through the house, slamming a door shut with a resounding boom that reverberated through the silence. I jumped, my heart pounding in my chest. The mansion, already steeped in an eerie atmosphere, seemed to shift, to become something more sinister, more alive. The shadows deepened, stretching and contorting into grotesque shapes that danced across the walls. The air grew thick and heavy, making it difficult to breathe. A prickling sensation crawled across my skin, a feeling of being watched, of being surrounded by unseen eyes. Suddenly, the floor beneath me groaned and buckled. I stumbled, my flashlight beam dancing wildly across the decaying walls. The once grand mansion was deteriorating before my eyes, the plaster crumbling, the wallpaper peeling, the floorboards rotting away. It was as if the house itself was succumbing to some unseen force, its very structure groaning under the weight of a malevolent presence. I stumbled back, fear gripping me. The mansion was no longer just old and abandoned. It was actively decaying, collapsing in on itself, as if time had suddenly accelerated within its walls. I had to get out, to escape this nightmare before it consumed me. But as I turned to flee, a figure emerged from the shadows at the top of the grand staircase. It was a woman, her form gaunt and skeletal, her skin pale and translucent. Her eyes glowed with an eerie luminescence, and her long, white hair flowed around her like a spectral shroud. She glided down the stairs, her movements fluid and unnatural, her feet barely seeming to touch the ground. A low, guttural moan escaped her lips, a sound that sent chills down my spine. I was paralyzed with fear, unable to move, unable to scream. The woman approached, her eyes fixed on me with an intensity that made my blood run cold. I could feel her presence, cold and ethereal, drawing closer, reaching out to me. I closed my eyes, bracing myself for the inevitable. But then silence. I opened my eyes cautiously. The woman was gone. The shadows had retreated, and the mansion seemed to have stabilized, its decay halted as abruptly as it had begun. I was left standing in the eerie stillness, my heart pounding, my breath ragged. I checked my watch. It was still midnight. Time seemed to have frozen, trapped in the endless loop of this horrifying hour. I was caught in a nightmare, a realm where the rules of reality no longer applied. Suddenly, a book materialized on the floor in front of me, seemingly out of thin air. It was bound in dark leather, its pages filled with faded ink. I picked it up, my hands trembling. The book felt cold to the touch, as if it had been pulled from the depths of a frozen grave. I opened the book, my eyes scanning the cryptic words scrawled across the pages. It was a journal, a chronicle of the mansion's dark history, filled with tales of the Trevino family, their twisted rituals, and their obsession with eternal life. As I read, the chilling truth began to dawn on me. The Trevino mansion was not just haunted. It was a prison, a place where time stood still, and the souls of the lost were trapped in an endless cycle of midnight. And I was now one of them. The journal felt heavy in my hands, its leather cover cold and damp. I huddled in a corner of the decaying mansion, the moonlight casting long, eerie shadows across the pages. The words within were a chilling testament to the darkness that had consumed the Trevino family, their desperate pursuit of eternal life leading them down a path of twisted rituals and unspeakable sacrifices. The journal's author, a woman named Josephine Trevino, detailed her descent into madness, her obsession with the occult, and her belief in a ritual that could grant immortality. She spoke of a malevolent entity, a creature of shadow and darkness, known only as Mr. Fox. According to the journal, Mr. Fox was an ancient being, a dweller in the spaces between worlds, a devourer of souls. He could be summoned through a ritual, a dark pact that offered eternal life in exchange for a terrible price. Josephine described the ritual in chilling detail, the chanting of ancient incantations, the drawing of arcane symbols, and the offering of a blood sacrifice. She spoke of the fear and excitement that coursed through her veins as she performed the ritual, her desperation to save her ailing husband outweighing any sense of morality or compassion. But the ritual had gone horribly wrong. Instead of granting eternal life, it had unleashed a curse, trapping the Trevino family and anyone who dared to enter the mansion in an endless loop of midnight. Time stood still within the mansion's walls, the inhabitants forever trapped in the moment of the ritual's completion. As I read further, my blood ran cold. Josephine's journal described the creature's appearance, its shadowy form, its glowing red eyes, and its insatiable hunger for souls. It spoke of the creature's ability to manipulate time and reality, to twist and distort the mansion and its surroundings, to trap its victims in a never-ending nightmare. The journal also contained a warning, a desperate plea from Josephine to anyone who might find her words. She urged them to destroy the book, to break the curse, and to free the trapped souls from their eternal torment. But how could I destroy the book? How could I break a curse that had held the Trevino mansion in its grip for centuries? I was trapped, just like the others, caught in a loop of midnight with no escape in sight. The journal's final entry was a chilling message, scrawled in a shaky hand, as if written in the throes of fear and desperation. It read, "Beware the fox. He watches. He waits. He hungers." I closed the book, my heart pounding in my chest. The mansion creaked and groaned around me, the shadows seeming to writhe and coil like living things. I could feel the creature's presence, its malevolent gaze fixed upon me. I knew then that I was not alone in this nightmare. Mr. Fox was here, lurking in the shadows, waiting to claim my soul. I had to find a way to break the curse, to escape this prison of time, or I would be forever lost in the endless night of the Trevino mansion. Josephine's journal slipped from my grasp, its pages fluttering to the dusty floor. The chilling words echoed in my mind, painting a horrifying picture of the mansion's history and the malevolent entity that lurked within its walls. I was trapped, caught in a never-ending loop of midnight, hunted by a creature that fed on fear and despair. Panic clawed at my throat. I had to get out, to escape this cursed place before it consumed me entirely. But the mansion seemed to be closing in, the shadows deepening, the air growing thick and suffocating. I scrambled to my feet, my flashlight beam dancing across the decaying walls as I searched for an escape route. The front door was no longer an option. The spectral woman I had encountered earlier now stood guard, her glowing eyes fixed on me with an unnerving intensity. I turned and fled, my footsteps echoing through the empty corridors. The mansion seemed to twist and contort around me, the rooms shifting and changing, the hallways stretching into endless labyrinths. I was lost in a maze of shadows and decay, with no sense of direction, no hope of escape. Suddenly, I stumbled upon a hidden passage, a narrow staircase leading down into the darkness. A glimmer of hope flickered within me. Perhaps this was a way out, a secret escape route unknown to the creature that hunted me. I descended the stairs cautiously, my flashlight beam cutting through the thick darkness. The air grew colder, the silence more profound. I could feel the weight of the mansion pressing down on me, the sense of dread growing with each step. The staircase led to a damp, subterranean chamber, its walls lined with shelves filled with strange artifacts and ancient tomes. A single flickering candle illuminated the room, casting eerie shadows that danced across the walls. As I stepped into the chamber, a cold gust of wind extinguished the candle, plunging me into darkness. I fumbled for my flashlight, my heart pounding in my chest. The silence was deafening, broken only by the sound of my own ragged breathing. Then I heard it, a soft, shuffling sound coming from the depths of the chamber. I froze, my blood turning to ice. Something was here with me, something unseen, something malevolent. The shuffling grew louder, closer. I could feel its presence, cold and menacing, closing in on me. I raised my flashlight, its beam cutting through the darkness, searching for the source of the sound. And then I saw it. A pair of glowing red eyes emerged from the shadows, fixed on me with an intensity that made my breath catch in my throat. The creature stepped into the light, its form tall and skeletal, its skin pale and translucent. Its long, sharp claws scraped against the stone floor, sending shivers down my spine. It was Mr. Fox. The creature lunged, its claws reaching for me. I screamed and stumbled back, tripping over a loose stone and falling to the ground. The creature loomed over me, its eyes burning into mine, its breath hot and fetid on my face. I closed my eyes, bracing myself for the inevitable. But then, a sudden crash echoed through the chamber. I opened my eyes to see the spectral woman from the staircase standing between me and the creature. Her eyes blazed with an otherworldly light, and her form seemed to shimmer and distort. She raised her hand, and a wave of energy erupted from her, throwing the creature back against the wall. It snarled and lunged again, but the woman held it at bay, her power growing with each attack. I scrambled to my feet, taking advantage of the distraction. I had to get out of there to escape while I still had the chance. I turned and fled, my footsteps echoing through the chamber as I raced back towards the staircase. I could hear the creature's enraged roar behind me, its claws scraping against the stone walls as it pursued me. But I didn't look back. I climbed the stairs, my heart pounding, my lungs burning. I burst out of the hidden passage and back into the mansion, the creature's roar still echoing in my ears. I had escaped its clutches for now, but I knew it wouldn't give up easily. I had to find a way to break the curse, to free myself from this nightmare, or I would be forever trapped in the endless night of the Trevino mansion. Bursting out of the mansion and into the cool night air, I didn't dare slow down. The creature's roar still echoed in my ears, a chilling reminder of the danger that lurked within those crumbling walls. I plunged into the depths of the Green Mountain National Forest, the towering trees and dense undergrowth swallowing me whole. The forest was a labyrinth of shadows and twisted branches, the moonlight barely penetrating the thick canopy overhead. I stumbled through the undergrowth, my clothes catching on thorns and brambles, my skin scratched and bleeding. Fear fueled my every step, the primal instinct for survival urging me onward. The silence of the forest was unnerving, broken only by the sound of my own ragged breathing and the occasional snap of a twig underfoot. The air was heavy with a damp, earthy scent, and the ground was soft and yielding beneath my feet. I had no idea where I was going, no sense of direction in this vast, unending wilderness. The mansion was behind me, a monstrous silhouette against the moonlit sky, but I couldn't go back. I had to keep moving to put as much distance between myself and that creature as possible. As I ran, I thought of Josephine's journal, the chilling words that described the creature's power, its ability to manipulate time and reality. Was I still trapped in the endless loop of midnight? Was this forest just another extension of the mansion's curse, a twisted realm where escape was impossible? The thought sent a wave of despair washing over me. I was lost, alone, and hunted by a creature that defied all logic and reason. My hope dwindled with each passing moment, replaced by a growing sense of dread. Suddenly, I stumbled upon a clearing, a small patch of moonlight illuminating the forest floor. In the center of the clearing stood a towering oak tree, its branches reaching towards the sky like gnarled fingers. A sense of peace washed over me, a momentary respite from the fear and chaos that had consumed me. I collapsed at the foot of the tree, my body exhausted, my mind reeling. I closed my eyes, trying to calm my racing heart, to slow my ragged breathing. But the silence of the forest was broken once again, this time by a soft, whispering sound. I opened my eyes, my gaze drawn to the oak tree. The whispering grew louder, emanating from the tree itself, as if the ancient oak were speaking to me. I strained to make out the words, their meaning elusive, their tone both soothing and menacing. The whispering seemed to seep into my mind, weaving its way through my thoughts, planting seeds of doubt and fear. I tried to resist, to block out the insidious whispers, but their power was overwhelming. The whispers spoke of the creature, of its power, its hunger, its relentless pursuit. They told me that escape was futile, that I was destined to become another victim of the Trevino curse. I felt my resolve crumbling, my hope fading. The whispers were right. I was trapped, lost in a nightmare with no escape. I was going to die in this forest, another soul claimed by the creature of shadow and darkness. But then, a new sound pierced the silence, a sound that cut through the whispers and ignited a spark of defiance within me. It was the sound of a distant bell, tolling slowly, rhythmically. The sound was faint, but it was there, a beacon of hope in the darkness. I struggled to my feet, my body aching, my mind still reeling from the whispers. But the sound of the bell gave me a sense of direction, a purpose. I had to find the source of that sound, to follow it towards whatever salvation it might offer. With renewed determination, I plunged back into the forest, the sound of the bell guiding my way. I was still lost, still hunted, but I was no longer alone. The bell was a lifeline, a promise of something beyond the darkness, a glimmer of hope in the endless night of the Trevino mansion. The bell's toll grew louder with each step, guiding me through the labyrinthine forest. The darkness seemed to thin, the oppressive atmosphere lifting as I followed the sound. Hope, a fragile ember that had nearly been extinguished, flickered back to life within me. The trees thinned, revealing a rocky outcrop bathed in moonlight. A small, weathered church stood at the edge of the clearing, its steeple silhouetted against the night sky. The bell's toll emanated from within, its rhythmic clang a beacon of sanctuary in this haunted wilderness. I approached the church cautiously, my footsteps crunching on the gravel path. The wooden door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit interior. Rows of empty pews stretched towards a simple altar, and the air was thick with the scent of incense and dust. A sense of calm washed over me as I stepped inside. The church, though old and abandoned, held an aura of peace, a stark contrast to the oppressive darkness of the mansion and the surrounding forest. I sank into a pew, my exhausted body finally succumbing to the respite offered by this unexpected haven. But the respite was short-lived. A sudden gust of wind slammed the church door shut, plunging the interior into darkness. I jumped, my heart pounding, my senses on high alert. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the sound of my own ragged breathing. Then I heard it, a soft scratching sound coming from behind the altar. I strained my ears, trying to identify the source of the noise. The scratching grew louder, accompanied by a low, guttural growl that sent shivers down my spine. I fumbled for my flashlight, its beam cutting through the darkness. The scratching stopped, replaced by an eerie silence that hung heavy in the air. I moved towards the altar, my footsteps echoing in the vast emptiness of the church. As I rounded the altar, my flashlight beam fell upon a sight that made my blood run cold. A gaping hole yawned in the floor, leading down into a dark, subterranean chamber. The growling emanated from within, its sound echoing up from the depths. A wave of fear washed over me, but curiosity battled with the instinct to flee. This cave, hidden beneath the church, could hold the key to understanding the Trevino curse, the secrets of the creature that haunted these woods. With a deep breath, I descended into the hole, my flashlight illuminating the rough-hewn steps that led down into the darkness. The air grew colder, the growling louder, as I ventured deeper into the earth. The chamber opened into a vast cavern, its walls adorned with strange symbols and cryptic writings. Bones littered the floor, remnants of the creature's victims. Their skeletal remains a chilling testament to its insatiable hunger. In the center of the cavern, a makeshift altar stood, constructed from rough-hewn stones. Atop the altar lay a collection of objects: a tarnished silver locket, a worn leather-bound book, and a small, intricately carved wooden box. I approached the altar cautiously, my flashlight beam illuminating the objects. The locket was engraved with the initials JT and contained a faded photograph of a young woman with hauntingly familiar eyes. The book was filled with cryptic symbols and ancient incantations, its pages brittle and yellowed with age. The wooden box was locked, its intricate carvings hinting at the secrets it held within. I picked it up, its weight surprisingly heavy. A sense of foreboding washed over me as I examined the box, a feeling that its contents held the key to understanding the darkness that had consumed this place. Suddenly, the growling intensified, echoing through the cavern. I spun around, my flashlight beam searching the shadows. A pair of glowing red eyes emerged from the darkness, fixed on me with a predatory intensity. The creature stepped into the light, its form even more terrifying than I had imagined. It was a grotesque amalgamation of wolf and man, its fur matted and blood-stained, its claws long and sharp. Its eyes burned with a malevolent fire, and its snarling jaws revealed rows of razor-sharp teeth. The creature lunged, its claws reaching for me. I screamed and stumbled back, dropping the wooden box. It clattered to the floor, its lid springing open, revealing a single object nestled within its velvet lining. It was a small, silver bell, identical to the one that had led me to the church. The creature snarled, its eyes burning with rage as it lunged towards me. I stumbled back, fear gripping me, but the silver bell in my hand offered a strange sense of protection. The creature recoiled, its snarls turning into whimpers, as if the bell's sound caused it immense pain. I raised the bell, its chime echoing through the cavern. The creature cowered, its form flickering and distorting, its growls turning into pained cries. The bell, the same one that had guided me to the church, was clearly more than just a religious artifact. It was a weapon, a tool of power against this creature of darkness. Emboldened, I pressed forward, ringing the bell with increasing intensity. The creature retreated further, its form becoming more and more translucent, its cries growing weaker. The cavern walls seemed to pulsate with the bell's sound, the ancient symbols and writings glowing with an eerie light. With a final, desperate clang of the bell, the creature vanished, its form dissolving into the shadows. The cavern fell silent, the only sound the echo of the bell's chime and my own ragged breathing. I lowered the bell, my hand trembling with exhaustion and adrenaline. The cavern, once a place of fear and dread, now felt strangely peaceful. The symbols on the walls seemed to shimmer with a newfound energy, their cryptic messages beckoning me closer. I approached the altar, my gaze drawn to the leather-bound book that lay beside the now empty wooden box. I picked it up, its cover cold and smooth beneath my fingers. This book, Josephine's journal, held the answers I sought, the key to understanding the Trevino curse and the creature that had haunted these woods for centuries. I opened the journal, its pages filled with Josephine's elegant script. Her words painted a vivid picture of her life, her love for her husband, and her desperate attempts to save him from the clutches of a deadly illness. But her words also revealed a darker side, a descent into obsession and madness, a willingness to sacrifice everything for the promise of eternal life. Josephine's journal detailed her research into the occult, her discovery of the ritual to summon Mr. Fox, and her belief that it held the key to her husband's salvation. She described the ritual in chilling detail, the sacrifices she made, the blood she spilled, all in the name of love and desperation. But the ritual had backfired, unleashing a curse that trapped her and her husband in an endless loop of midnight. The mansion became their prison, the creature their tormentor, their existence a never-ending nightmare. Josephine's final entries were filled with regret and despair. She lamented the choices she had made, the sacrifices she had offered, the darkness she had unleashed. She pleaded for forgiveness, for someone to break the curse and free her from her eternal torment. As I read her words, a wave of sadness washed over me. Josephine Trevino was not a monster, but a victim, a woman driven to desperate measures by love and fear. She had made terrible mistakes, but she had also paid the ultimate price. I closed the journal, my heart heavy with the weight of her story. I understood now the true nature of the Trevino curse, the creature's hold over this place, and the sacrifices that had been made in the pursuit of eternal life. But I also understood the power of the silver bell, the weapon that could break the curse and free the trapped souls. I held the bell tightly in my hand, its cool metal a comforting weight against my palm. I was no longer just an urban explorer, a seeker of thrills and chills. I was a protector, a liberator, The one who would finally bring an end to the darkness that had plagued the Trevino mansion for centuries. The creature snarled, its eyes burning with rage as it lunged towards me. I stumbled back, fear gripping me, but the silver bell in my hand offered a strange sense of protection. The creature recoiled, its snarls turning into whimpers, as if the bell's sound caused it immense pain. I raised the bell, its chime echoing through the cavern. The creature cowered, its form flickering and distorting, its growls turning into pained cries. The bell, the same one that had guided me to the church, was clearly more than just a religious artifact. It was a weapon, a tool of power against this creature of darkness. Emboldened, I pressed forward, ringing the bell with increasing intensity. The creature retreated further, its form becoming more and more translucent, its cries growing weaker. The cavern walls seemed to pulsate with the bell's sound, the ancient symbols and writings glowing with an eerie light. With a final, desperate clang of the bell, the creature vanished, its form dissolving into the shadows. The cavern fell silent, the only sound the echo of the bell's chime and my own ragged breathing. I lowered the bell, my hand trembling with exhaustion and adrenaline. The cavern, once a place of fear and dread, now felt strangely peaceful. The symbols on the walls seemed to shimmer with a newfound energy, their cryptic messages beckoning me closer. I approached the altar, my gaze drawn to the leather-bound book that lay beside the now empty wooden box. I picked it up, its cover cold and smooth beneath my fingers. This book, Josephine's journal, held the answers I sought, the key to understanding the Trevino curse and the creature that had haunted these woods for centuries. I opened the journal, its pages filled with Josephine's elegant script. Her words painted a vivid picture of her life, her love for her husband, and her desperate attempts to save him from the clutches of a deadly illness. But her words also revealed a darker side, a descent into obsession and madness, a willingness to sacrifice everything for the promise of eternal life. Josephine's journal detailed her research into the occult, her discovery of the ritual to summon Mr. Fox, and her belief that it held the key to her husband's salvation. She described the ritual in chilling detail, the sacrifices she made, the blood she spilled, all in the name of love and desperation. But the ritual had backfired, unleashing a curse that trapped her and her husband in an endless loop of midnight. The mansion became their prison, the creature their tormentor, their existence a never-ending nightmare. Josephine's final entries were filled with regret and despair. She lamented the choices she had made, the sacrifices she had offered, the darkness she had unleashed. She pleaded for forgiveness, for someone to break the curse and free her from her eternal torment. As I read her words, a wave of sadness washed over me. Josephine Trevino was not a monster, but a victim, a woman driven to desperate measures by love and fear. She had made terrible mistakes, but she had also paid the ultimate price. I closed the journal, my heart heavy with the weight of her story. I understood now the true nature of the Trevino curse, the creature's hold over this place, and the sacrifices that had been made in the pursuit of eternal life. But I also understood the power of the silver bell, the weapon that could break the curse and free the trapped souls. I held the bell tightly in my hand, its cool metal a comforting weight against my palm. I was no longer just an urban explorer, a seeker of thrills and chills. I was a protector, a liberator, the one who would finally bring an end to the darkness that had plagued the Trevino mansion for centuries. Clutching Josephine's journal and the silver bell, I emerged from the cavern, the church's interior no longer offering solace, but serving as a stark reminder of the looming confrontation. The bell's chime, once a beacon of hope, now echoed with the weight of responsibility. I was no longer just a witness to the Trevino curse. I was its final adversary. Leaving the church, I ventured back into the forest, the path illuminated by the moon's pale glow. The trees seemed to lean in, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. But the fear that had once consumed me was now tempered with a newfound resolve. I knew what I had to do. I returned to the mansion, its silhouette a monstrous shadow against the horizon. The front door, once a forbidding barrier, now stood ajar, an invitation to confront the darkness within. Stepping across the threshold, I felt a surge of energy, the mansion's oppressive atmosphere crackling with anticipation. The shadows danced and writhed, the silence punctuated by the creaking of the old house, as if the very structure held its breath in anticipation of the final battle. I made my way to the grand hall, the silver bell clutched tightly in my hand. The spectral woman, Josephine, materialized at the top of the stairs, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and hope. She pointed towards the shadows that clung to the far end of the hall, where the creature lurked, its presence a palpable weight in the air. I stepped forward, the bell's chime ringing out, its sound piercing the silence. The shadows recoiled, the creature's form emerging from the darkness, its eyes burning with rage and hunger. The creature lunged, its claws reaching for me. I rang the bell again, its sound causing the creature to stumble back, its form flickering and distorting. The mansion groaned and shuddered, the walls trembling as the creature's power clashed with the bell's purifying resonance. I pressed forward, the bell's chime growing louder, its sound filling the mansion, driving back the shadows, weakening the creature's hold. The spectral figures of the mansion's trapped souls emerged from the darkness, their forms flickering and translucent, their eyes filled with hope. The creature roared, its voice a guttural echo of despair and rage. It lunged again, its claws tearing through the air, but the bell's sound deflected its attack, its power waning with each passing moment. With a final, desperate roar, the creature lunged once more, its form dissolving into a swirling vortex of shadows. I rang the bell one last time, its sound reaching a crescendo that filled the mansion, shattering the creature's form, breaking its hold on this cursed place. The mansion fell silent, the shadows retreating, the spectral figures fading into the light. The air cleared, the oppressive atmosphere lifting, replaced by a sense of peace and tranquility. The Trevino curse was broken. I stood in the center of the grand hall, the silver bell silent in my hand. The mansion, once a prison of darkness, now stood bathed in the soft glow of the breaking dawn. The trapped souls were free, their spirits released from their eternal torment. As the first rays of sunlight streamed through the broken windows, I stepped out of the mansion, leaving behind the darkness and the secrets that had haunted this place for centuries. The forest, once a labyrinth of fear, now seemed vibrant and alive, the trees whispering with a newfound peace. The Trevino mansion remained, a silent testament to the darkness that had once consumed it. But the curse was broken, the creature vanquished, the trapped souls set free. And I, the urban explorer who had stumbled upon this haunted place, had become the unlikely hero, the one who had brought an end to the endless night.